can hear me, I'm starting. Okay. Hello and welcome to Social Media Business. This is the podcast about social media and business, and actually all sorts of stuff as well. Dave Reilly, as you would know if you watched the podcast last week or the week before, is moving from Queensland to Sydney to take a job with The Guardian, and he's in the process of moving house and moving his family and organising schools and all sorts of things, which I actually think is a pretty poor excuse for not being able to attend today. But it does give me an opportunity to ask other people to come in as well. So if you've got a webcam and a mic and there's something about, I don't know, social media, really anything at all, just a moment. Okay. If you've got questions or if you've seen something about social media that you'd like to talk about, then why not join us? I'll just ping me on the Google Plus page. I'll keep an eye on the YouTube page as well, but I'm mostly focusing on the Google Plus events page. And just say, hey, I've got a mic and a webcam and I want to talk about XYZ, and I'll invite you in. I have invited Michael from Queensland to join us today, but he's not coming through at the moment, so hopefully he will disconnect and reconnect or something, and then I can bring him in. First of all, what is the big news of the week? What sort of things are you guys been looking at or paying attention to? What's been of interest to you? So I just go back to the Google Plus page. First, I want to say hello to Christopher Burgess, Cameron Reilly, who was on last week and lots of fun, John Dobbin, who are watching at the moment, and I noticed that there are 3 or 4 viewers already, which is great. Usually we have more as the time goes on and people find out about it. We had 60, 70 concurrent viewers last week or the week before. I can't remember now. So I'll have to keep an eye on that because I wasn't aware that I could even check how many people were watching. Just waiting for Michael to come through again. And nothing's happening. All right. So what sort of things have been going on? One area in social media that's really of interest to me is how quickly news spreads. And I really think it's because of the distributed nature. There's no central set of editors. You know, in Australia, there's only a handful of newspapers. There's only one national paper, that sort of thing. So when the community are responsible for distribution, we tend to be passing stuff around all over the place very quickly. And one of the stories that's been breaking is the Primark story about people who are working in sweatshops putting up cries for help inside the tags of the clothing and getting the word out that way. I'll just put this up on the screen share. So there's SOS messages coming through. There's been other messages about somebody, what did they do? They put in the tag, help me, I'm in a sweatshop, all sorts of things. So it's been a kind of a fascinating time for them to for managing crisis communications, because there's not much you can do if you're in that world of, it's not just a one-off evening news broadcast, it's now a problem, I guess, across the board. I'm just going to re-invite Michael and then see if we can get him back in again. I just love Google Hangouts, not. I can really see where it's going, but there's so much you have to think about, like bringing up screens and watching for messages coming through and inviting people and that sort of thing, and they simply do not make it easy. Even things like planning a Google Hangout, you have to go to 4 different areas. You have to go to live events, you have to go to the events, you have to go to YouTube events, you have to go to Google Plus events, the whole thing. Anyway, that's my whinge for the day. So Primark is one of those things that is, I guess, it's about corporate karma for me, and it's about that the marketing channels, the social media marketing channels, are now owned by the community in a way, and that there is a lot more people out there doing anti-marketing against the Primark brand than Primark can employ marketers. And I'm not sure why companies aren't better prepared for crisis comms. I suspect it's because, and I'm just going to go there, I think it's because there's a lot of guys at the top in the CEO and CFO and COO and CIO and CTO positions, the C-suite, and they completely dismiss social, and they do. And this isn't fantasy. This isn't just having a belligerent grudge. It's I stand in meetings with them where they go, there's social media is just full of nut jobs, or social media is just full of time wasters, and why don't these people get a job instead of mucking around online? And it's not only that they don't respect their own customers, it's that they don't understand the power and the danger of sticking their heads in the sand. So it'd be interesting to see how Primark responds in the next I guess few days, and my guess is that they'll go through the 8 steps. It's like the 8 steps of grief, corporate grief. They'll ignore it initially, and then they'll threaten to sue, and then they'll say they're doing an investigation and that they've got excuses, and then they'll apologize, and then they'll fight back and say it's only one person, or it's only a small group, or it was out of their hands, and they'll go through all the steps, and we know those steps, and it's kind of boring. So Cameron Reilly said it's convoluted. He could be talking about me, probably is, but I think he's talking about Google Plus Hangouts, and even I've lost the link. I'll put it up later. It's Google Plus themselves said it's not easy, and I made an error with this one where I clicked plan a public hangout instead of doing my usual way, which is creating an event. And I had to create the event, then I had to manually go in and create the YouTube and all that sort of stuff. Gary Hayes says Google products built by programmers for wannabe programmers. I think what's really frustrating is that because they use graduates, Google is so invested in graduates of very few universities. They get a very limited kind of a niche view on the world. And one thing I know about working with techies is that the demographic hat of one is placed on, which is, this isn't too technical for me, it'll be fine for the users. And I sort of have to explain, well, could your mum use this? And they're like, you know, it's not them. They see the whole world in their view. So I'm pretty sure the Google Plus Hangout engineers go, no, it's easy. You just go into YouTube live events, you create a live event, and you have to set the date, then you have to go into the Google Plus events and set the date there, and then you have to do this, you have to match the two up, then you have to do that. It's like 20 steps, and why can't it be one step? Anyway, Chris Saad's offered to join in, so let's bring him in. I've got a funny story about Chris. I don't know if he remembers this story, but I'll tell you when he comes in, if he comes in. Chris, I've sent you an invitation. Feel free to join me. And I'm just going to invite Michael again because he said he's having a problem connecting in. So I've sent him. Hey, Chris, can you see me? Can you hear me? Nope. Just love Google Hangouts. Okay, that's the second person that's fallen over today. Join me. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Can you mute your video, please? Yeah, because I'm hearing myself speak back, so that's you don't need to watch it and hear it. That's good. How are you?
How do I hear you then? I need to get some headphones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably need headphones. All right, I'll let you get headphones. Cameron Reilly says it's Google stuff is built by dorks, and one more reason he doesn't use Android. And I would say, Cam, that them's fighting words. I know that Apple likes to control everything, but they do it so well. It's like we welcome our overlords. Hey, Chris, you're on mute, I think. No, you're good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, and I've got headphones, and I've stopped the other playback in the background, and I think it's all working now.
That's great. And, you know, one of the things with having the live broadcast is I don't often get a chance beforehand to go through with people and check all their setup. So I'm good on you for getting that sorted out so quickly. How are you today?
I'm good. It's 5 p.m. here in no, it's not so sunny San Francisco at the moment.
Well, we're expecting rain up here in the Blue Mountains. Snow up here in the Blue Mountains, but it's suddenly gone very blue and high skies. So we had snow clouds around last night. They seem to have gone. I don't mind snow. I don't like a lot of it, but I don't mind a little bit. So anyway, I just want to say that Cameron said Lowell thinks she's Tommy. And the only Tommy that comes to mind is the one from the Who song, the blind, deaf, dumb Tommy. So I don't think that's who he's talking about.
I have no idea who he's talking about.
Yeah. Chris, do you remember how we met?
I don't, which is probably terrible of me.
Okay, well, I do, because it was kind of unusual. It must have been 2007, 2008. I've been blogging for a few years, and I always have my telephone number on my blog, and you rang me randomly and said,
Did I really?
Yeah, and you said, I just thought it was really unusual you had your phone number on your blog, so I thought I'd ring you. So I just went, who's this crazy dude? And talked to you for a while, and you were still here in Australia and you had big plans for going to the US. So, and I saw that the plans came true. You went to the US. I think you got a green card, didn't you?
I'm on a E3 work visa, actually. So.
Oh, yeah, the Australian E3 one thingy.
Yeah. That's kind of embarrassing. That's an embarrassing story. That's not cool.
No, I thought it was really cool, and it was that beautiful synchronicity of the world becoming a global village. And yes, it was telephones that we connected through, but it was also through the blog.
Ancient technology.
Yes.
Telephones.
One of the original social networking tools. You know, the thing that has a friends list is your phone. So, what are you up to these days? I know you're doing stuff in the cutting edge of social and blah blah. What are you up to?
Oh, I'd like to. I'd like to tell myself that. Actually, well, just before I get into that, I heard you talking about Google Plus being convoluted and stuff, and over the weekend I wrote a blog post about that. Actually, Google's social strategy and what I would do if they let me play in that playground, and I was surprised and
Chris,
proud.
What's your domain? What's your I can put it up on the screen if you tell me where it is. It's Chris Saad.
It's a chrissaad.com, and it's under professional blog on the left navigation.
Okay, I'll have a look. Go on, carry on. I'll throw it up on the screen in a sec.
Oh, no, no, I was just saying, yeah, I mean, one of the things I said was that Google Hangouts was very broken and that the opportunity was to make it a first-class communication product and also to let go of this whole idea that it's a video product and make it more of a general communications product with video being an option, more like Skype and less like what it is right now.
Okay, so it's a Chris Saad professional blog. Wow, lots of stuff there.
I actually did it like at 11 p.m. on Friday night. I don't know. I get into these little rants sometimes where I'm like, I need to get this out of my head or it's going to drive me crazy.
So, was this in reference to Thingamabob, Larry Page, I think it was, who said they should never have put me on a social product? Did you hear that quote from him last week?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that was overblown a little bit. He basically said, I was a little involved, and that was probably a mistake for me. I think he was talking more about it was a mistake for him personally, that he was...
Yeah, I get that too.
People took
He
it
was
as like
basically
Google
saying,
Plus.
I'm a geek and I don't
Yeah,
do social very well, and why on earth would I personally be involved in this
right,
product?
right.
My issue with that is all organizations work top down. All. All. And if you don't have a CEO who's leading, thought leadership and initiative, they don't have to be experts in that subject, but they have to be behind their own products. If somebody put me in charge of, I don't know, selling tobacco or something, and I hate the product, I'm not going to do very well. My company's
Yeah,
not going to do well.
I think that's more or less true. I think the culture is set from the top. I think the attitudes and the structure and what gets rewarded and what gets measured and the core values of a company come from the top. I don't know that every last product has to come from the top. Social though is one of those things that is more of a feature than a product. It's in Google's world, it should be a feature versus a product, and so it's something that doesn't
You
get
mean social isn't a technology?
social yeah, no, it's a psychology more than a technology.
Mm.
Yeah, so because it should be knitted through the fabric of the product suite. Then it would probably help if the head of the company knew more about it. But yeah, I don't know why Google is just obsessed with building a standalone social destination. Google Buzz and Google what was the other one they did, and then Google Plus, and it's just like you know. There's such a bigger, more interesting opportunity for Google than just copying or cloning Facebook. There's a much better opportunity out there.
Why do you think that Google needs to be involved in social? I mean, in some senses, they're fantastic curators. I mean, if you look at how SMO is working now in search, and if I search for a movie, it comes up and tells me what cinema is nearby. It tells me what times the things are showing. It's pulling in APIs, it's pulling in database information from all the cinemas nearby. So it has this great ability to curate. Why doesn't it become an agnostic, little bits everywhere, Web 3.0, grabbing, curating content? I don't know that does Google need to own the profile?
Well, I think part of their problem, and when they did Google Plus, I talked about this a little bit, where it reminded me of Microsoft doing .NET when Java was out. Was a perfectly good, or I mean, people will argue with me on that, but Java existed, and Microsoft had to go build their .NET because they couldn't rely on Java, which was basically a platform from a competitor that they couldn't control their own destiny on. And I think Google Plus is a little bit like that in relation to Facebook. Facebook, for all intents and purposes, is the darknet for Google. They can't index it. They can't get the social graph. They can't get the data. And Facebook is not interested in helping them at all. And so what they needed to do is create a kind of counterbalance to Facebook and say, oh, well, that's okay because we have our own social network, or at least we have a foothold, and we're going to show you what we would do with this social data. And then if we are even mildly successful, then Facebook has to open up and give us the data too, so they can appear in the search results and appear in places that Google Plus appears. So that it kind of made sense. They couldn't let Facebook take the whole game because they needed that data. But I agree with you, though, that their opportunity is less about creating a social destination site and more about aggregating, curating, algorithmically, solving for the noise and signal problem, and a series of other things. But actually, I don't think they should give the core thing of a social network is just a few things. It's the social graph, and it's the news feed, and it's one or two other things, notification and groups.
Well, I do think one thing that we've always understood running networks is that how powerful the profile is. And if you look at the 4 quadrants of monetization, that ability to know the customer and to know information about them, the old story, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, is phenomenal. And I noticed that, one thing I run through with people is that if you're doing keyword ads with Google and you say, I want to advertise for people who search for a secondhand car, blah, blah, suburb, 2 things about them. They're looking to buy a secondhand car, and where they're looking to buy it. But you don't know whether they're a 16-year-old who's just gone to uni and is looking for a car that's probably going to be $3,000 to $4,000, or whether it's a grandmother living in a fairly well-off, affluent suburb who wants to buy her granddaughter a car. You don't know anything about her.
So
What do you know? What does Facebook know about you? And I just want to say, I've checked Google's profile of me, and Google thinks I'm a 22 to 25-year-old man, and I know one of those things is true. Actually, neither of them are. And it's because I play computer games, and I'm searching all the time for cheats on computer games. So, hey Google, I'm not a 22 to 25-year-old guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry, I kept going when you wanted to say something.
Oh, no worries. Well, I think 2 things. I think the first thing is trying to bucket people by personas, like age and sex, is really inaccurate and not, I think, the best way to do that. So that's number 1. And number 2 is, I think their problem is not just that they don't know who you are. I think they know an awful lot about who you are based on your browsing patterns and stuff. But what they don't know is what your friends think. Because firstly, they don't know who your friends are, and secondly, they don't have those reviews and expressions because they're over on Twitter and Facebook. And so the opportunity is not just to profile you better, but to surface contextually relevant reviews, ratings, recommendations from people I trust, because Google's very good at indexing documents made by strangers, but that's not what people trust anymore. People trust.
And Facebook's very, very clever. I noticed at marketing stuff to me that my friends like. Sometimes it gets it completely wrong. Just because I've got friends who like football doesn't mean I want my feed filled up on the weekend full of footy stuff. Hey Cameron, how are you?
I like the way he comes in from the
side. It's like Pepworth in my computer.
I've got Chris talking in my other ear. Sorry.
Well, Paul, take the other ear off.
I did.
Mute the other thing.
Did you call me?
No, I just pinged you in.
Right.
So this is Cameron Reilly for everybody out there, and I'm good. He's not smoking a cigar today.
No, not this week.
Somewhat of a disappointment.
Sorry.
How's it going, Cameron? It's been lifetimes since we've spoken.
It has, Chris, since we shared a hotel room the last time.
Oh, wow, I forgot about that.
The old days. You, me, and Nick in San Francisco, I think. San Francisco with us?
Nick who?
San Jose?
Nick Searless. I don't think you know him.
Nick Searless, no.
Chris's old business partner back several startups ago.
Yeah, yep. Actually, I can see roughly that spot where we stayed from my window. So I haven't gone far from those days, actually.
I did have a cigar with Nick somewhere on the Gold Coast a couple of years ago. We bumped into each other, and it was good. Good times.
Yeah, he's great.
So, did you ping me for a reason, Laurel, or just because you missed me?
Oh, you just were hanging around not doing anything, so I thought I'd bring you in. And I've said to people that if they want to participate, to let me know, and you didn't, but you were obviously
around.
watching And I know you're always game to have a bit of a chat, so
Well,
it's all good.
I did want to ask you. I wanted to
Cameron,
ask
you
you
go
about
ahead. Cameron, you.
Yeah, shut up, Chris. I wanted to ask you about this thing that happened to me like yesterday or the day before. So, about 2 weeks ago, my lovely wife Chrissy brought me home a little tin of coconut water. The brand is Meko, M-E-K-O, coconut water. And I drank it, and it was fantastic. It was the greatest thing I've had in a long time. I was blown away. And so last week I was at the shops by myself, and I was looking for some coconut water, and I couldn't remember which one I got because I didn't ever note it. And so I bought a couple of other brands, drank them, and they were god-awful. And I came back and asked my wife what it was, and she brought me, next time she went to the shop, she brought me back one. I was great, and I drank it, and I took an Evernote of the product. That's all I did. I didn't tweet about it, didn't Facebook it, didn't search it. I Evernoted it. Yesterday, I'm in Facebook, and an ad for the Meko Coconut Water Facebook group pops up in my Facebook ads sidebar. Now, this is either just a coincidence, and I'm, getting all Edward Snowden paranoid, or, not that I'm saying Edward
You should be paranoid.
Snowden's paranoid.
You're breaking up, honey.
Just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching where it is. Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Go on. Go
Okay.
on.
Or Meko's profiling is so damn good that they were able to figure out that I was their target market. I wanted to ask you, what do you think's going on? Coincidence or really, really good profiling?
Okay. I'm going to be Sherlock Holmes, and Chris Saad's going to be my Watson. Or we can reverse roles. I don't mind. So first question I want to ask you is, do you log into Evernote with your Gmail account?
No.
Well, but this is a Facebook ad, so Google and Facebook are not probably.
No, there is. There's a deal that they've done which is about co-sharing off-platform cookie stuff.
Okay.
Hmm.
Weren't you searching around looking for the coconut water? Weren't you Googling coconut water?
No, I was Googling in the old-fashioned way, walking up and down the aisle at Woolworths.
That reminds me of. That reminds me. Once I was in the movie theater with my brother, and he started patting himself down. I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm Googling for my ticket." He was.
I'm just having a look at the API here for Evernote, because I was thinking that maybe, in the same way that all your data is available through the Facebook API, maybe all your Evernote data is available.
No, this would be all through back channel ad network data stuff, if it was happening at all.
Oh no, it's definitely happening, absolutely, and I completely agree. I Google something really obscure, and the next thing I know, I'm getting Facebook ads for it. So,
but Google and Facebook I can understand, but my Evernote data, surely my Evernote data isn't being sold to ad networks.
Brian Caldwell, who I can't remember if he's an Aussie or no, he's Aussie friendly because he comes from Skitch. He works at Evernote. He might.
Chris, that implies that there are people out there who are not Aussie friendly.
He is around Aussie circles. That's what I meant. So
Aussie friendly.
But yeah, who knows?
Who was the guy that started Skitch? I can't remember his name.
Chris
Pearson. Pearson. Yeah. Is he still involved? Do you know? Is he over there?
I don't know.
Aussie hangouts.
I've lost track of him. I don't know what he's doing. I think he.
At Chris, we should ping him.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Well, that was my question, and so you haven't been able to answer it. I thought you might know, but I was, if Evernote is sharing my data with ad networks, I would be shocked, and it would probably seriously compromise my relationship with Evernote. And I live on Evernote. I've got.
I forgot to tell you, there's one other thing, is that the data from your flybys is also being shared. And so Coles just got pulled up on this recently for offering up big data information, actually not big data, personalized data information around what people are buying using loyalty cards. So those loyalty cards are, really being used to do to set up big data markers and to target customers in lots of different ways. So maybe Miko's done a deal with your shopping centre.
No, but I didn't even buy Miko. I wasn't even the purchaser. My wife purchased it.
But you're in her social graph. And also, maybe Miko goes, if they buy the horrible, shitty product, then we'll market our better product to them.
Yeah, look, it could be just really, really good. Oh, maybe it was luck. Maybe it was really good profiling. Like my wife said to me, "You're not the typical coconut water drinker." And well, obviously I am because I'm drinking it and I like it. But I'm a 43-year-old. Grey,
yeah, if I was going to do a persona for profile-based advertising, I don't think a cigar-toting 43-year-old dude from Queensland would be on my persona, which just goes to show you how crap personas can be from time to time. They definitely don't do the personalised thing.
So
okay, Chris, are you a coconut? Oh, by the way, one question, Cam. Honestly, are you angry at Evernote, or are you thankful to Evernote for connecting you with a brand that you now have brand love with?
Oh my God, you have really drunk the Kool-Aid, haven't you?
That's the question I was going to ask, which I think is more interesting, is would you rather have ads that are that targeted to your interests, which arguably turns it into content? Would you prefer that, or would you prefer being spammed with stuff like, I don't know, golf clubs and stuff?
Yeah, well, I prefer no ads.
But that's not realistic, and it's not useful. I mean,
it is realistic. That's why I run ad block.
Commerce has to happen.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be advertising. There are other ways to do commerce, Chris. Advertising is the laziest form of commerce. I mean, there are more intelligent ways for brands to engage with me and get their products in front of me than just advertising.
Yeah, but we went through this before. Earning attention is an expensive in resources option. Buying attention is simply a bottom line figure that everybody understands. So earning attention takes time and energy.
Buying attention is ineffective. That's my argument. But anyway, let me answer your question. Yeah, I would be pissed off about that. I mean, yeah, look, if I'm going to have to get ads, targeted ads, and honestly, 99.9% of the advertising that I do see is, completely poorly targeted, as far as I'm concerned. But if I don't expect Evernote to be sharing my data.
I just want to say Gary Hayes and John Dobbin have put some stuff up on in the notes of the event. So those of you that are following the event, and Gary said that Evernote has got something in there about targeting cookies and advertising cookies. From time to time, we contract with third-party advertising networks that use cookies and similar technologies, blah, blah, blah. I think you know where that's going to go. And John Dobbins said, an interesting point, here is their policy. We collect it even if you're using the browser extensions, and why they collect it. Or if your browser's set to do not track, then they won't collect it. So there you go. Evernote has got a targeting and retargeting policy.
I don't even know how that works, but okay. Wow, I'm shocked and horrified.
Do you know what retargeting is?
Yeah. Retargeting is when you visit a page and then the ads for that site follow you around.
But I don't know how that works, again, with me taking a photo of a can of drink into Evernote and me end up getting ads on Facebook, but sounds like they do have some sort of
OCR.
Oh, I tell you something else they could be doing. They could be using either Google's or Facebook's object identification engine, which is in the background, and then because it's attached to your profile, the object comes up and says what it is, and then you're getting ads that way. I don't know. I think I'm going to hang up my Dear Stalker Sherlock Holmes hat and just say maybe Gary Hayes and John Dobbin won the day.
Well, that's it from me.
Did that help at all, Cam, or not really?
Well, Yeah, and I'm horrified. Honestly, I'm horrified. I think of Evernote as a vault, and I put everything in there. And if they are selling my information to advertisers, I think that's heinous.
Okay, so I have to say then that I am shocked that you have turned out to be such a dear, sweet, naive boy, and I think Chris is not as well, because there's no way, no how that I think that anything goes anywhere is locked up. Hey, did you see that thing about Amazon? If you take a photo with the new Amazon device of your newborn
Yeah.
baby, Cam, then Amazon will start to target you with diaper ads because you've taken a photo with their device.
You know what I'm surprised about is that the phone costs any money at all.
They should be paying us.
Particularly if yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised the phone isn't just a glorified terminal and they make the money through services and shopping and.
Or they could do what Microsoft's doing in their desperation. They could pay people $650 to buy their device.
So I went and looked into that. I have a Microsoft store down the road from me, and it turns out actually that they've been doing that for a while. They just have a third-party trade-in company, and you can actually give them your iPhone, you can give them any device, and they'll appraise it with a couple of check questions, and then they take it off you and give you a gift card or trade-in. So it's actually a pretty straightforward deal.
EB Games here does the same thing. You can trade in any iPhone or game machine for vouchers and machines. That's just
I think the announcement is really just more around maybe they're paying you a premium amount for it or they're guaranteeing some amount before the end of the next month and something like that. But yeah, I think it was also, that was another one where it was sensationalized a little bit.
Okay. And what about the Amazon one? What do you think of the Amazon story? The whole every time you take a photo, they do object identification. There's also the terms and conditions, which is the same as Google's, which is the same as Facebook, which is they can listen to the ambient environment through your device's microphone and then deliver you ads based on what you're jabbering on around about. What do you think of Amazon getting into that area?
It's unsurprising to me. What's surprising to me was how lackluster the whole product was. That they didn't innovate on the pricing model. They didn't innovate on the distribution and carrier relationship. It's a new walled garden where there's a different ecosystem of applications, and I just don't know why I would jump into it. It seems like garbage to me. So that's what's surprising to me. The fact that they're using it to collect your data and sell you stuff is the least surprising part of it.
Yeah, I'll put up that.
You guys don't seem horrified by this as much as you should be.
I tell you why, Cam, because I think privacy
Is it
wasn't.
just because you're not as naive as I am? I just think this is.
Okay. No, I tell you why. Because this was something that 10, 15 years ago I really thought through and went, privacy was an experiment that the human race tried and it didn't work. It's a very new idea, this privacy. Before then, when you lived in the village, everybody knew what was going on in the village. Everybody shared rooms, they shared houses, they shared caves, whatever. And this moving into working in cube farms and living in cube houses and driving cube cars was a really new innovation. And one thing that we know about human beings is that they are naturally social creatures. But I want to give the flip side of this though. But because they're naturally social creatures, they trade privacy the minute they get community. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Foursquare tells me my friends are nearby. I'll get involved. The only thing is, and the biggest thing I have is that currently the way companies are constructed is like a cancer on community. That companies don't see themselves as part of the community, they see themselves as preying on communities. And unless we can truly get into a peer-to-peer distributed economy, then we will feel like we've just sold our soul for $2.99 coconut water. That's my rant. Chris, have a rant too.
I think we trade our privacy for community and for utility. and oftentimes that utility is to find community. And so, you know that old cliche now, if it's free, then you're the product. And so, no, I'm not surprised. I would rather well-targeted ads than crappy ads that don't mean anything to me. Are there other different business models? Sure, but most users don't want to pay. They would rather trade privacy for utility, and that's the
But no, the other business models aren't consumers paying freemium for services. I mean, if you look at something like Etsy, you know, they've got 6-7 million dressmakers on there. They have 28 million purchases. They do $1 billion worth of sales, and they don't advertise. You know, like you don't have to have consumer pays host or commercial clients pay hosts.
What you're talking about is the ability or lack thereof of a brand to be discovered organically, but that doesn't solve for the ability for Facebook to survive without those lazy brands that need to advertise.
Okay, here's one for you. Here's one. Facebook used to have a peer-to-peer marketplace. It was an app like eBay, and you put up stuff for sale, and then your social graph saw what you were selling, and Facebook could have taken a clip of the sale. Now imagine what Facebook could have wiped eBay off the planet if they had stuck with Marketplace, and Peter Thiel was already investing in, I mean, he's from PayPal and all that world, was already investing in currency solutions and digital payment solutions and things like that. Facebook could have been the peer-to-peer economy of the future if they kept that on that path, but they didn't. They got rid of Marketplace. So we now leave Facebook and go to eBay, and then we come back to Facebook to advertise what we've put up on eBay, and Facebook doesn't get a clip of that sale. What a stupid thing. They could have at least set up an affiliate
both
marketplace.
Both Facebook and Twitter decided quite some time ago to become media companies. They were both platforms, and they both decided to become media companies. And
can you define media for me?
Yeah, platform. So let me contrast them. A platform company are pipes where they don't care about the data running through the pipe. They're agnostic to the stuff running through the pipe. A media company is when they start analyzing what's running through the pipe.
The channels, yes.
The channel, and they need to own the eyeballs so they can display ads. A platform monetizes the utility, and a media company monetizes the eyeballs for that.
So what do you call the peer-to-peer companies? The Etsy's, the Ubers,
they're marketplaces. They're pretty straightforward marketplaces.
Okay, so why didn't Facebook decide to set up their channels as marketplaces?
They decided to be a media company. I mean, they really liked the media, unlike commerce, right? Media is the fourth estate. It's extremely powerful, right? And so you get to control the dialogue, you get to facilitate community. It's incredibly tempting. And at a time when CNN and Fox and CNBC and all these guys are really letting us down and failing, miserably at their core mandates, there's opportunities for new kinds of media companies. Now, I'm not saying
I just think we're coming to the end of the information economy in that format. And you're right, they riffed through onto the last wave of the information economy, but there is so much more to community than chatting about what is in the news. Than chatting. There's call to actions, there's activism, there's a whole range of different things. Cam, what about you? What do you think?
Sorry,
where's Cam? Oh dear, he's fallen off the planet.
Shocked.
When he come.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still just in shock about your idea that privacy is a failed experiment.
Welcome to the global village.
You can
Cam's not making a lot of sense at the moment.
No.
And that, what have we got? Lag? Hello? Can you hear me?
All right, Cam, you're breaking up. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. He's being outraged, but we can't hear him being outraged, which is a real shame because
If a
I'm on a
Cameron is out, if a
rant.
Cameron is outright outraged and nobody's around to hear it, did it still happen? That's the question.
Poor love. Cam, are you there? Can you speak? Let's try again. Rewind. Re-rant. Is he speaking?
Hello, I've got bad lag. God.
Bad lag.
My God.
Okay. Clearly, the world is conspiring against you. Yeah. Shame.
Yeah. Bye.
He's gone.
This has gone off the rails.
Shall I re-invite him, or should we just leave him out there in the middle of no man's land? I'll re-invite him. I'm sorry. Go on, Chris. We were chatting about I tell you what's interesting for the future, and one that has been very slow on the uptake. But for me, it's about what is the economy, what's the economy around the APIs? What's the economy around, instead of having a closed database, opening up the database and allowing, pushing out that data and allowing it to be mashed up in different ways. And a few years ago, I looked into this and I saw the minute Amazon opened up their API, opened up their database and allowed people to do transactional APIs off of Amazon.com, on widgets and blogs and Facebook and Twitter or whatever, they made $480 million more that quarter. Salesforce has similar figures. eBay has similar figures where they don't create these destination platforms but get into the channels. And the problem always is going to be, how does the host monetize when commercial clients are coming in directly through the API rather than applying to the host to target that audience? So we saw iTunes taking a massive clip of the sale, and the app stores taking a massive clip of the sale. What is it, 30% of in-app purchases, which is why Amazon won't sell through iPhones. And now Facebook made their announcement last week that they want to be the app store. They want to get their app store up and running properly because their app store sucks at the moment. What do you think? Do you think that that's a potential area rather than selling advertising to commercial clients? Commercial clients come in with in-app purchases on Facebook. Maybe that's something.
Yeah, this idea that the world is becoming a set of APIs and that people should expose their core differentiator as an API. For example, CNN should expose distributed reporting as an API, or broadcasting transcoding as an figure out what they're very, very good at and expose that as an API. Amazon figured out that they're very good at compute and data storing and logistics, and they exposed all that as APIs. I think that's the future, and actually myself and my CEO at Echo, Chris Liu, talk about this all the time, and he actually was one of the 10 featured speakers with Warner Vogels, the CTO of Amazon, at South by Southwest, talking just about this, about the APIs being the future of everything, of the economy. And so, yeah, I think exposing your core and unique business value as an API and monetizing that I actually think everything is going to become that. And you're going to have companies that are unbundling or shedding all of the fat of stuff they're not good at and outsourcing that to each other in a kind of more of a web-like structure.
Will they try and control? I mean, one of the things we did talk about was how everything goes into Facebook, and it's this kind of, what do you call it? Like a dead area where data goes in, dark net. I'm wondering whether, a supermarket will do a deal with a real estate company, will do a deal with a bank, will do a deal with somebody else, but they'll block the others out. Which reminds me of the really early days, 20 odd years ago, of what the information superhighway was going to look like. That only, certain companies would buy real estate on this highway, and they're the only services you would have access to. I just want to quote John Dobbin, "Nice chat, but must go. As a leaving thought, I had a nice chat with an East German software partner last week who took me to the Stasi Museum to remind me what corrupt governments can do with private information. Some global villages are not jolly. Completely agree. And the only thing that I would say is that's not a privacy issue, that's a transparency issue. We need to know what our governments are up to. And maybe the trade-off with privacy is full transparency. You know, this sort of living your life so completely online that everybody knows everything about you, and then you can kind of relax because you are who you are. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think. Go on.
I was going to say most people know most things about me. I share everything.
Yeah, but there's things
look,
you've forgotten. You forgot how we met, and I had to remind you. And you know, this is one of the things I think with the long tail on the net is that you can say something today and go for a job in 10 years' time and then be queried about it and be like, did I say that? I don't know.
That's fine with me. And if I no longer believe that, I'll say so. And if I do, I do. I mean, I look back on my blog posts, which were deliberate public utterings, and I think, wow, that was naive, or wow, that's out of date, or wow, that's badly worded, or I mean, and I would, if queried on it, I would correct the record or what have you. But
yes,
I think I used to work on this back in the days when Cam and I used to talk a lot at Faraday Media. Where the idea was, instead of hoarding all this information about people and squirreling it away and doing it in secret, create a product that exposed it to the user and say, here's what we know about you, and would you like to participate in that? Participate in curating this profile of yourself. And to some extent, Facebook has done that in a way that Google can't and hasn't, and wishes they could. And I think that's much more interesting, is instead of being freaked out by it, or instead of freaking people out about it, you should put it in front of them and ask them to participate.
Yep, I agree.
look, I think these
How about you,
issues.
Cam? Did you want to have another go at your rant?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so we can hear your lovely dulcet tones.
Look, I think these issues of privacy and transparency and corporations having access to our data and the government having access to our telephone calls and our emails are slightly separate but related. And particularly, you know, when we have such close connections between corporations and governments. And, you know, one of the arguments, and it seems to be the argument that Chris is making, and I hear it a lot from people, I think somebody said it in the comments before, Gary or John, well, you know, just don't do anything bad and you've got nothing to worry about, that people know everything about you. You know, I go and read Tim Weiner's book on the history of the FBI to learn what can happen when one or two parties, like a J. Edgar Hoover, it's not about you necessarily, them having information about you, it's them having, somebody in that position having dirt on every politician, every corporate leader, every military leader. When you have the dirt on all of the people in power, you can pull their strings and force them to do things or not do things with the threat that you will leak their private information.
But that's not... You're not... I loved in Back to the Future, he says, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. You're assuming that this happens in a vacuum. If the politicians are fully transparent and public, then there's no strings to pull. I can't blackmail you if it's all out in the public already.
But that's not the
There will always
situation.
be something you can blackmail people about. One of the things that I find really interesting is when I was living in Europe is that the German equivalent of a prime minister or president would go to public events with his mistress on his arm, and nobody took a photo of the two of them together. At the same time, the Monica Lewinsky story was breaking in America because there's massive taboos around that. In Germany, their attitude is, who cares if he's having an affair? Anyway, he ended up leaving his wife and marrying this one. I think it's his fifth wife. But that whole thing about wherever there is taboo, and there may not be a taboo today, the taboo might be in the future. And so, you know, you might smoke dope today, and then in the future it's a big issue, maybe that's an issue.
I think it works in reverse. I think taboos dissipate over time versus form over time. And that's part of the point of what I'm saying is we're moving in. If the premise is we're moving towards no privacy, well, I think we're also moving. I think in parallel, you will see that we move towards no taboos.
I disagree.
I
We are
think
moving.
you should try and make that argument to cigarette smokers, Chris. No taboos against cigarette smoking 40 years ago. Now you're evil if you smoke a cigarette.
And here's a taboo that's forming in the future. They will not say anything negative about anyone online. And to the extent that there'll be a personal branding score around semantics, around sentiment, which says this person speaks positively 90% of the time, 91% of the time, you'll watch that taboo come in place where you're not allowed to say anything negative about companies or services or even next door neighbours or schools. It'll become a watch this taboo. Taboos form over time.
Yeah, so if we can get back to the data sharing and the privacy stuff, I agree with what you guys are saying about transparency, particularly from a corporate perspective. I mean, getting back to Evernote, I've been an Evernote user since pretty much they launched, 2008. As I said, sort of 10,000 notes in Evernote, my entire life, my business, everything runs in Evernote. And I did not know that they were sharing my data. I knew that they would probably use my data to target me with ads themselves, but I pay for their premium product, so it's ad-free.
How much do you pay? Oh, you pay, okay, right.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, whatever their premium thing is, okay, it's $5 a month or something like that. But the fact that I have been a very loyal and active user for 6 years and didn't know if they are, in fact, selling my data to advertisers is a horrendous breach of my confidence. And this Evernote is probably, outside of Apple, my favorite company, my favorite brand. Very, very passionate about Evernote. I go to the Evernote user group here in Brisbane. There's 5 of us that turn up and go, woo, Evernote. I write blog posts about Evernote all the time. I've built scripts for Evernote. I'm an evangelist for Evernote. I teach my clients how to use it. If they are doing this kind of stuff and haven't been clear enough with me that they're doing it, I would be absolutely horrified.
Okay, so here's something. Every single company is adding your data into the big data pot, and if they're not, they're losing a revenue stream, and they're going to wake up sooner or later.
It's about don't be evil, right? Really, I mean, are there any companies left that aren't trying to be evil? Anyone?
Chris, what companies are trying not to be evil?
Another thing my CEO and I like to talk about is that don't be evil is not the same thing as be good.
Yeah, and if everybody else is doing this, then it's not evil. We're just doing what everybody else is doing.
Right. I mean, well, it's like be at 0, but don't necessarily be at +1. Right.
Is this the Echo company motto, Chris? Don't be evil doesn't mean be good.
No, I'm sorry. I should provide context. We were talking about how can you be good, or what is the culture, or what are we trying to do, and whatever. And we were talking about Google's great, and that don't be evil thing is great. And we're like, and then Chris is like, well, you know what? I don't think it's good enough. I think don't be evil is a giant hole left unstated, which is not necessarily.
Yeah, but that's because you're querying value systems rather than the purpose of the company. A really quick case in point is TomTom that make the GPS navigator systems sell that data to the police so that they can put up speed cameras to catch people who speed through areas. And for us, that's an outrageous misuse of our information. They're tracking where we're driving, what speeds we're doing, and then selling it to the police. But they would probably say they were being good, that they were stopping us from getting ourselves killed, and they were protecting us. So I think it's a breach of privacy. But maybe they think they're being good. It's a value system, value judgment, no?
Have you guys read The Circle?
The Circle? Yes, I have.
Okay. It was a book that was very popular out here in Silicon Valley, and it was a parody almost, or a hyperbolic description of Google and where or Facebook and where it's going, and how this ultimate dream of full transparency was a nightmarish 1984 style thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Cory Doctorow wrote a short story called Scroogled a couple of years
Googled,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I'm writing a book sort of on corporate malfeasance at the moment, and the operating theory that I have about all organisations, not just corporations, but political organisations, religious organisations as well, is that they are Dawkins-esque survival machines. Their primary driver is to survive, and they'll do whatever they have to do, whatever they feel they have to do to survive, including screwing over their customers, screwing over the environment, screwing over shareholders, what suppliers, whatever they think they need to do to survive another quarter, another half, another reporting period. And I think that's it's a horrible trend. It's a horrible trend, and
So
I think we need to do something
I've
about
got
it.
a question for you both. To me, the word profit represents the difference between the value of the product, you know, how much it costs to do research and development and create and sell and promote and whatever, the whole product. The difference between everything that goes into making the product and then selling it, the stuff on top, the stuff that's the discrepancy is the profit. So in a sense, the profit is the rip-off area. This is how much we were able to rip off of you on top of what the product was actually worth. And there's, you know, that big, small profit movement, which I think is phenomenal. Maybe that goes into the social good and, you know, don't be evil versus do good in the world. Is a small profit company would definitely, I think, fit into that as well. Because the minute you look at profits, and profits are a good thing, you know, this rip-off tax, this is how much we spent producing the product, but this is what we can trick you into paying for it, then that isn't that a fundamental flaw in capitalism? Isn't that one of the big issues? Is woohoo, we were able to, you know, the banks were able to rip this money out of the community. Go on.
I think you have to be very careful with that. I think your original setup was very important there, which is when you factor in all the costs and you also have to factor in value, right? And not just cost, but value. So, you know, for example, an expensive purse my girlfriend's recently gotten me or made me aware of Michael Kors bags. And so the perceived quality, scarcity, luxury of that brand, there's a massive...
It actually has a name. It's the amortization of the intangible. So the intangible is the Coca-Cola brand, which is, you know, they sell brown toxic water, but the amount on top of that is how much they were able to con us into thinking that this was a elite brand. By the way, those really expensive perfumes that you buy your girlfriend, I assume you buy her, maybe she buys herself. You know, perfume is smelly alcohol. But you drape an expensive model in expensive clothing over an expensive car, you can add perceived value to that perfume. Still part of the rip-off area, though, Chris. It's still part of the
Yeah, I'm hesitating when you use the word con and rip-off because you're applying a judgment to something that is it's soft, but it's not a scam. Human, as you said, we're social beings and things have value because we say so. That's really the only reason anything has value.
Because marketing told us so.
Well, when I say we say so, we've said it to each other. We're social beings. So there is a social contract that's being built up around each other, around ourselves, right? And so people are creating value by telling stories and narratives, and I'm able to express my personality and show off my ability to acquire scarce things. And these are... I'm just hesitating about that. Now, what I will say is that what we're missing is perfect measurement, which is to say we're measuring the wrong things, and the things we are measuring, we're measuring incompletely. And so when we talk about GDP, for example, we're not measuring the cost to the environment or the cost to the future or the cost, or we're not measuring happiness and productivity. We're not measuring productivity, but happiness and contentment and health. So I do think we're not factoring in the cost of society, and we're not measuring what it means to be producing things. What are we trying to actually go towards? We're not necessarily measuring the right KPIs for that. But I don't know
Oh,
that.
I just want to say Leslie White has said that we might want to check out Charles Eisenstein on sacred economics in relation to your profit motive
And
discussion.
everyone,
So
of course, needs to read Piketty's Capital, which is the best-selling book on capitalism at the moment.
Piketty's Capital.
Piketty. Yeah, capitalism. Piketty. P-I-K-E-T-T-Y. I think he's a French economist. New York Times best-selling book on the history and contemporary problems of capitalism right now. It's I'm halfway through it. It's a great read. But getting back to the point, and I agree
Is
with
it a
what...
great read or is it a boring read?
No,
The
it
only
is,
reason
it
I
is
ask is I keep trying to read Wealth of Nations and I just struggle.
Well, this was written last year, not 200 years ago. It is a great read.
No, I meant the Joachim Benkler one. I've read both.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But getting the point I was wanting to get to before is, you know, I think we're at a point where organisations, again, governments, corporations, religious organisations, do bad things, and we've become used to kind of ignoring that. Oh, well, that's what they all do. Or, oh, well, that's how business works. Or, oh, well, that's realpolitik. Or, oh, well, etc., etc. If they don't do it, someone else will. I think that is extremely troubling and dysfunctional. And, you know, if you haven't read much about psychopaths, I recommend everyone go and read a book or two on psychopaths and how they work. Psychopaths have the ability to harm other people and not really...
You're breaking up again, Cam. Have you got other stuff open on your machine?
Because their empathy centers are broken. And
Okay, Cam, you're breaking up. Sorry. Okay, no, you're going.
I missed your rant so much, Cam.
I think Google's just got it in for him. But you shouldn't have made the dig about Android earlier.
Right, that's what it is.
All right, listen, guys. We're going over time. Cam, always a pleasure. Although I really hope next time we ping you and bring you in, we can hear more. You just get into full flow and then you get cut off, which is not fair. Really lovely discussion, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for joining us at short notice. And Chris, I hope you're having a great time in, where are you, San Francisco?
San Francisco, yeah. I am. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And Cam's gone, so I think we should just blow him kisses.
Mwah. Kisses.
And Chris blew him a kiss as well. And maybe we can have a chat again another time. So next Thursday at 10 a.m. Sydney time, I'll be on, hopefully with Dave Early. If not, if you're happy to be in the hot seat and have a chat about something to do with social media, news in social media, maybe some stuff ups from some companies, maybe the future of social media, something that's going on at the moment, ping me, let me know on Google Plus or Twitter, Silk Charm, or some other way, and we'll bring you in at 10 o'clock next Thursday. So thank you very much, and see you guys later. Bye.